The galaxy was old. Stars that once blazed bright had dimmed into quiet red embers. Civilizations had risen and fallen like waves upon a cosmic ocean. Yet among all the races that filled the galaxy, there existed one mystery that every scholar, every explorer, and every empire whispered about in wonder. Humans. No one had ever seen them. No records spoke of their origin or their fate. But every now and then, explorers found their marks. Massive stone rings orbiting dead worlds, ruins carved with strange letters, and machines that refused to decay even after millions of years. To the younger species, humans were myths. To others, they were a warning. And to a few, like Terrell of the Voon Empire, they were a calling. Terrell was a young archaeologist, small in frame but with eyes full of wonder. He never cared about wars, empires, or power. What drew him to the stars was curiosity, the desire to know who came before. He often spent nights in his ship's observation dome, watching the galaxy stretch endlessly before him. His crew would rest and he would sit alone, reading ancient fragments found across forgotten worlds, always hoping, always searching for a clue. One day, while exploring the Rinshara Nebula, his ship detected an unusual energy signature. The nebula was famous for its unstable storms. No one dared go near it. But the signal was steady, rhythmic, almost as if something or someone was calling out from within. Against the warnings of his captain, Terrell begged for a closer look. The ship trembled as they entered the glowing clouds of the nebula. Purple lightning danced across their shields. The view outside was beautiful and terrifying, a sea of gas and light swirling endlessly. Then suddenly, silence. They broke through the storm into a calm pocket of space, and there it was, a planet small, gray, and covered in ruin. The surface was quiet. The atmosphere was thin but breathable. Ancient towers lay broken across the land, and rivers of metallic dust sparkled beneath the twin suns. Terrell's team descended in their shuttle and stepped out, their boots sinking into the soft ash-like soil. Everywhere he looked, he saw traces of brilliance, structures half buried, built with precision beyond any modern empire. Walls stood tall with carvings that glowed faintly as if still alive. Some looked like cities, others like temples, and then Terrell saw it, a statue larger than anything he had ever seen. It stood in the center of the ruined city, reaching hundreds of meters into the air. It was the figure of a human, carved from silver stone, wearing no armor, holding a small glowing sphere in one hand and a broken blade in the other. Time had not defeated it. Even after endless millennia, it stood proud, silent, and almost sorrowful. The translator drone hovered beside Terrell, scanning the base of the statue. Lines of old inscriptions ran along the stone. The symbols glimmered weakly as the drone tried to decode them. Then a soft tone chimed, and the translation appeared on Terrell's wrist screen. Only 3 words were clear. "We were here." Terrell felt a chill run through his body. He looked up at the stone face. Its expression was calm, but its eyes seemed alive. There was sadness in them, a kind of loneliness that no machine could fake. He whispered to himself, "Humans. They were real." They spent days exploring the ruins. Each discovery deepened the mystery. They found empty halls, machines that hummed faintly but had no source of power, and walls lined with unfamiliar writing. In one chamber, they found murals showing humans walking among the stars, not in war, but in unity with other species. Terrell noticed something strange. The humans in those carvings were always reaching out, helping, guiding, teaching. Not rulers, not conquerors, but caretakers. His assistant, a tall insectoid named Kiri, tilted her head as she looked at the images. These beings look soft," she said in her buzzing voice. "No claws, no armor. How could they have survived in such a dangerous galaxy?" Terrell smiled faintly. Maybe strength wasn't their weapon. Maybe it was something else. Like what? He paused, touching the smooth surface of the mural. Maybe kindness. Kiri blinked her faceted eyes, puzzled. Kindness was rare in the galaxy. Most civilizations believed only in strength. The idea that kindness could shape an entire race felt impossible. And yet, here they stood, surrounded by the echoes of such a people. On the 5th day, as the twin suns began to set, Terrell found an entrance leading underground. A massive door, sealed tight with unknown energy, blocked their path. It pulsed with a faint golden light. He placed his gloved hand against it, and suddenly the light spread, forming patterns across the entire door, reacting to his touch. Power reading increasing, Kiri warned. Should we step back? But Terrell didn't move. Something inside him told him not to be afraid. The door opened slowly, dust scattering into the air like stardust, and a corridor of smooth black metal stretched into the darkness beyond. They entered carefully. The air inside was still and cool, untouched for what felt like eternity. The walls were lined with panels that began to glow softly as they walked. Then, a hum. The ground beneath them vibrated. A light appeared in the center of the chamber ahead, swirling into a holographic image. It was a woman, a human woman, her face gentle and calm. She looked as if she were alive, standing right before them. "Welcome," she said softly. Her voice echoed in the chamber, not mechanical but warm, like a real voice. "If you are seeing this, then we are gone." Terrell's heart pounded. The woman continued, her tone full of quiet sadness. "We were called humans. We came from a small world bathed in blue and green. We reached the stars not for conquest but for connection. We built, we shared, we dreamed. But dreams can burn too bright." She paused, her image flickering slightly. "Something happened. A choice, a sacrifice. We left so that others may live. If you find this place, know that we cared. We hoped that life would continue, that one day someone like you would walk among the stars and remember." The hologram faded, leaving silence behind. No one spoke for a long time. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Finally, Terrell whispered, "They left? Why?" There was no answer, only the soft hum of the ancient chamber. Kiri looked around uneasily. If they were so powerful, how could they vanish? Terrell looked at the empty space where the hologram had been. Maybe power was never their goal. Maybe they found something beyond it, something greater than we can understand. As they exited the chamber, the sky outside was darkening. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ruins. The statue of the human glowed faintly under the starlight, the sphere in its hand shimmering like a heartbeat. Terrell stood there for a long time, staring up at it. He felt something stirring deep inside, a strange warmth mixed with sorrow and awe. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like an explorer or a scientist. He felt small, a child standing before a history too vast to comprehend. He thought about the woman's words. "We hoped that one day, someone like you would remember," and he whispered softly, almost to the stars themselves, "I remember." That night, as his ship drifted quietly above the ruins, Terrell couldn't sleep. He watched the planet below and a grave of giants, silent yet alive in memory. He wondered how many worlds still carried traces of humans, hidden and waiting to be found. He wrote in his log, Day 47 of the Rinshara expedition. "We have found proof of the human race. They were real. They were builders, dreamers, and perhaps guardians. I do not yet understand their disappearance, but I feel their presence in every corner of this world. It's as if the stars themselves remember them." He paused, his hands trembling slightly over the console. Maybe they never truly died. Maybe they became part of the galaxy itself. The wind, the light, the silence between stars. He looked out one last time before closing the log. In the reflection of the glass, he thought he saw something, just for a second, a faint outline of a figure, human-shaped, watching from the void. He blinked. It was gone, but deep down he felt it. They were not gone. They were waiting. The galaxy never stayed quiet for long. News of Terrell's discovery spread faster than light through every communication network. The word human returned to the tongues of thousands of civilizations, no longer a legend but a confirmed truth. Some were fascinated, some were afraid, and a few were jealous. For Terrell, it was both exciting and overwhelming. The Voon Empire's High Council called him home for questioning. Dozens of scientists demanded proof. Explorers begged to see the planet for themselves. And though he tried to explain everything, the ruins, the statue, the voice of the woman, few believed him at first, but when his recordings were verified and the hologram's message was decoded, silence filled the council hall. Even the most skeptical minds bowed their heads as they heard the woman's gentle words. "We were called humans. We came from a small world bathed in blue and green. It was the first real voice from the lost race. Within weeks, an official expedition was organized. Ships from several empires carrying scientists, historians, and engineers joined Terrell's team. They called it Project Memory. As Terrell's ship led the fleet back to the Rinshara Nebula, he felt both pride and fear. He had uncovered something that could change the galaxy forever. Yet deep inside he worried. What if they disturbed something sacred? What if the humans had left this world untouched for a reason? Still, curiosity won. It always did. When the expedition landed on the planet again, they worked carefully. No one touched the statue. It was treated like a holy relic. Instead, they focused on mapping the underground chambers. Their scanners revealed tunnels spreading for miles beneath the surface. On the third day, they found another sealed passage, hidden under collapsed stone. This one emitted a stronger energy signal than anything else. It took hours to clear the debris and set up energy converters to open it. When the massive door finally slid open, the crew gasped. Behind it was a hall larger than a starship hangar, glowing with soft golden light. In the center stood rows upon rows of tall crystalline pillars. Inside each crystal, faint shapes could be seen, not people, but symbols, lights, and swirling data streams. Terrell's heart raced. "It's an archive," he whispered. "A memory vault." They entered carefully, scanners humming. The air was clean and still, untouched for countless millennia. The walls were smooth, engraved with glowing lines that pulsed gently as if alive. Every step echoed softly, and even the loudest voices became whispers. Kiri, his assistant, approached one of the crystals. "It's storing something," she said, "but not in a language we know." Terrell placed his hand near it, and to everyone's surprise, the crystal responded, glowing brighter. A gentle hum filled the hall, and light poured out from the pillar, forming a holographic screen in the air. Images appeared, not of war or destruction, but of life. They saw humans walking through green fields, children laughing under twin moons, oceans with silver waves, and starships drifting peacefully through clouds of starlight. The crew stood silent, spellbound. The images were so vivid that it almost felt real, like they were standing on those worlds, breathing the same air. Then words appeared in the air, slowly translating through the drones. The memory of Earth. The beginning. Terrell watched as the hologram shifted again. A voice began to speak, calm, steady, and full of warmth. "We were born from a single small world. We called it Earth. It was fragile, yet full of hope. We looked to the stars not to escape, but to learn." The images changed, showing humans building their first starships, joining hands with alien races, sharing knowledge and technology. We became many. We built together. We believed in unity. We believed that all life had meaning. The crew exchanged glances. There was no mention of conquest or war, only cooperation and understanding. But as the hologram continued, the colors darkened. The once bright images turned cold and gray, but peace is fragile. Not all understood. Some feared what they could not control. The stars turned against each other. We tried to stop it. We tried to save them, but our time was ending. The voice trembled slightly now, no longer steady. To protect life, we left. We gave our worlds, our cities, our energy, to heal what was broken. We became part of the cosmos. Our bodies faded, but our spirit remained. You who find this, remember, we were not gods. We were only dreamers. The hologram faded into silence. No one spoke for a long while. Even the humming of the machines seemed quiet. Finally, Kiri said softly, "They gave up everything." "For others?" Terrell nodded slowly. "They didn't vanish because of war or weakness. They sacrificed themselves." A younger technician, his voice trembling, asked, "But how could they do that? How can a whole race disappear like that and still leave all this behind?" Terrell looked around at the glowing crystals. Maybe they found a way to live on, not in bodies, but in memory, in light. Over the following days, the team explored deeper into the archive. Each new chamber revealed more of humanity's history. One vault showed their early struggles on Earth, storms, hunger, and wars, but also music, art, and love. Another displayed their great journey across the stars, meeting new species, creating alliances, and spreading compassion wherever they went. They were not perfect. They made mistakes, but every record showed their effort to grow, to understand, and to make peace where others saw conflict. The more they saw, the more Terrell felt a strange connection, as if something deep inside him recognized the humans. Their words, their expressions, even the sadness in their eyes, and it all felt familiar. One night, as he sat alone in the archive, he whispered to the empty air, "Why do I feel like I've known you?" The crystals glowed faintly, as if answering him. On the 10th day, they found something new. A smaller chamber, hidden behind a wall that didn't appear on their scans. When they entered, they saw a single crystal, larger than the rest, standing in the center. It pulsed with a deep blue light. Unlike the others, this one was connected to a strange device, half broken, yet still functioning. The moment Terrell approached, the device activated on its own. The blue light expanded and filled the room. A hologram appeared again, the same woman who had greeted them in the first chamber. But this time, she looked different, older, her expression more serious. To those who find this, you have seen our story. But there is more. There is truth hidden beyond memory. Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. We left not because we were destroyed, but because we changed. We learned that life is more than form. We became something greater, something connected to the stars themselves. We are still here in the light you see, in the warmth of every sun. We are the song between worlds. Her eyes seemed to meet Terrell's directly. Do not search for us. Instead, carry forward what we were. Let kindness be your strength. Let unity be your shield. Remember us not as myths, but as your beginning. And with that, the hologram faded. The crystal dimmed and became still once more. When Terrell emerged from the chamber, his heart was heavy yet filled with peace. He understood now humanity hadn't been lost. They had transcended. They had become part of the universe itself. But he also knew something else. Their story wasn't finished. The message didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. Back aboard his ship that night, Terrell sent a transmission to the Galactic Council. His message was simple. We have found the truth. The humans were not gods or destroyers. They were caretakers, and they left behind a message for all life. They believed in hope, and they wanted us to continue their dream. He attached the holographic recordings and the translation logs. He didn't expect an immediate reply. Words like these needed time to sink in. As the stars passed silently outside his window, he closed his eyes and remembered the woman's voice. We are still here, in the light you see. He smiled faintly. Then you're not lost, he whispered. You're home. Over the next few weeks, Terrell's discovery changed everything. Universities dedicated new studies to human history. Temples were built to honor their memory. Artists painted their stories. Children across the galaxy learned about the beings who gave up everything to save others. Some called them the First Light. Others called them the Star Guardians. But Terrell called them something simpler, Family of the Stars, and yet, one question remained unanswered. If humans had become one with the cosmos, why were there still faint energy signals spreading from deep space? Why were there whispers of a returning light beyond the galactic rim? Terrell couldn't stop thinking about it. Every night when he listened to the quiet hum of his ship, he thought he could hear it. A gentle pulse, almost like a heartbeat, echoing faintly through the void. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet, but he knew what it was. The humans weren't gone. They were waiting to be found again. And somewhere out in the silent darkness, the stars themselves seemed to whisper a single phrase. Soft, distant, and full of longing. We are coming home. Months passed since the discovery of the human archive. The galaxy had changed in quiet, beautiful ways. The story of the ancient humans spread across thousands of worlds like the warmth of a new dawn. Every race, from the smallest species on icy moons to the grand empires of the stars, spoke of them now, not as a myth, but as the ones who once cared for all life. Some built temples in their honor. Some painted their faces on the walls of ships, and some simply looked to the stars each night and whispered thanks. But for Terrell, the young explorer who had uncovered it all, peace did not come easily. Even after the archives were studied and the truth confirmed, he could not stop thinking about one detail. That faint signal he had heard echoing through the void. It came and went like a heartbeat, soft but steady, as if something, or someone worse, was calling out. He didn't tell the council about it yet. He didn't even tell his crew. It felt personal, like the universe was whispering only to him. One silent evening aboard his ship, Terrell sat alone in the observation dome. The Rinshara Nebula glowed softly outside, its purple clouds curling around the distant ruins. He held a small crystal, a fragment taken from the human archive. When he turned it in his hand, it shimmered faintly, almost like it remembered him. He sighed softly. "You're still out there, aren't you?" he whispered. Just then his console beeped. A weak signal appeared on the screen, rhythmic, repeating, and unmistakable. Terrell froze. He ran a quick scan. The pattern was the same as the language of the human archive, old, elegant, and filled with mathematical rhythm. He played it aloud, and the sound filled the room. It was soft, almost musical, like a gentle pulse of light. After decoding, the computer displayed a translation. Only 3 words appeared. "We are coming." Terrell's breath caught in his throat. The next morning, he called his team together. Kiri and the others gathered around the console, staring at the message in disbelief. "Is this real?" Kiri asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Could it be them?" Terrell nodded slowly. "It matches their energy pattern." The message came from the edge of the galactic rim, far beyond any known system. Another technician frowned. "That region is empty. Nothing could survive there." "Maybe nothing we know," Terrell replied softly. He sent the data to the Galactic Research Council immediately. Within days, the entire galaxy was buzzing again. Scientists, explorers, and spiritual leaders argued endlessly. Was it truly the humans returning, or was it some cosmic echo, a leftover message from long ago? Empires prepared fleets to investigate. Small ships were launched toward the rim, carrying hope, curiosity, and a little fear. And through it all, Terrell watched in silence, feeling something deep in his heart. He knew this wasn't an echo. It was a voice weeks past. Then the signal grew stronger. It began appearing not just in one system, but in hundreds, all sending the same message in perfect harmony. Across the galaxy, the lights of distant stars began flickering in unison, forming strange rhythmic patterns. Space itself seemed alive with sound and color. People gathered on balconies, plains, and rooftops, staring at the sky as the stars pulsed like beating hearts. Children laughed, elders cried, and even the most hardened soldiers stood silent, watching the heavens shimmer. The message changed slightly now. It was longer, clearer. The translation came through. "We see you. We remember. We are returning home." The words spread through every communication channel. For the first time in galactic history, all species spoke the same sentence, not in war or trade, but in awe. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Leaders from every empire appeared in holographic form above the Great Chamber. Some were afraid. What if they returned to reclaim what was theirs? One leader demanded. "The humans were powerful beyond understanding. We cannot risk their dominance again." Others spoke with wonder. "They gave up everything to save us. Why would they come with harm?" And a few like Terrell stood quietly, listening to both sides. Finally, he stepped forward. "They are not our enemies," he said. "They are our ancestors, maybe not by blood, but by heart. They built a galaxy of peace before we even learned to walk among the stars. If they are coming back, it's not for war. It's because they never stopped caring." The chamber fell silent. Even those who feared could not argue with his words. In the end, the council decided no fleets would be sent in aggression. Observation only. The galaxy would wait. That night, the signal grew so strong that it reached every communication receiver at once. Ships across the stars lost power for a few seconds as a wave of golden light passed through space, gentle but powerful. When systems came back online, something new appeared on every screen, a glowing symbol of a hand holding a sphere of light. It was the same image carved on the statue of the human in the ruins. A message followed. "The cycle is complete. The garden has grown. We return not as rulers, but as light. Prepare your hearts, for dawn comes again." Then the signal ended. Across the galaxy, something began to change. Dead planets bloomed again with color. Cold stars flared back to life. Space storms that had raged for centuries began to fade. It was as if an unseen power was healing the universe itself. In the Rinshara Nebula, where it had all begun, the ruins started to glow once more. The statue of the human brightened, its stone surface turning almost transparent. The sphere in its hand pulsed like a heartbeat. Terrell and his team returned there immediately. They stood before the shining monument as the ground trembled softly beneath them. Kiri looked around nervously. "It's reacting to the signal." Terrell stepped forward, staring up at the statue. The light from the sphere reflected in his eyes. "No," he said quietly. "It's welcoming them home." The air shimmered. A beam of golden light shot upward from the statue into the sky, piercing through the nebula and beyond. The light expanded, forming a swirling gateway, not of metal or fire but pure energy, and from it shapes began to emerge. They were ships, vast and silent, unlike any ever seen. Their surfaces glowed softly like living stars. They moved not with engines but with grace, as if space itself guided them. Everyone watching knew at once the humans had returned, but they were not as the old images showed. They were radiant, their forms made of both light and matter, gentle and calm. They didn't come with weapons or demands. Instead, every ship emitted waves of harmony, calming storms and healing broken lands. A transmission came through every frequency. It was a voice, clear, calm, familiar. "Children of the stars," it said softly. "You have done well. You have learned to live, to grow, to care. We have watched and now we return, not as masters but as guardians once more." Terrell fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. He knew that voice. It was the same woman from the archives. "The light that you carry," she continued, "is ours and yours. We are part of you, in your kindness, in your dreams, in your courage to seek the unknown." Kiri whispered, "They're not ghosts. They're alive," Terrell nodded. "They never died. They became part of everything." Over the next few days, the human ships spread across the galaxy, visiting old worlds, bringing warmth and life wherever they passed. They didn't take control or demand worship. Instead, they shared knowledge, teaching the younger races how to live in balance, how to heal the wounds of their planets, and how to live with hope. They explained that long ago, they had left their physical forms to protect the galaxy from collapse. They had become energy, existing between dimensions, waiting for the right time to return. That time had finally come. One evening, Terrell was invited aboard one of the radiant ships. The hull shimmered with soft blue light. There was no metal, no engines. Everything felt alive, like walking inside a dream. At the center stood the woman, the holographic voice from the archives. But now she was real, her form glowing faintly. "Welcome, Terrell," she said with a gentle smile. "You were the first to hear our voice. You listened when others doubted." Terrell bowed his head. "I didn't find you," he said quietly. "You found me." The woman smiled. "Perhaps both are true. The universe speaks to those who listen." He looked around the glowing chamber. "Why now? Why return after so long?" "Because the galaxy has grown," she said. "It has learned what we hoped it would. Compassion, unity, and peace. It was time for us to guide again, not as teachers, but as family." Before he left, the woman placed her hand, made of light, over his heart.
"Carry our flame," she said.
"Remind the stars that love is strength." As she faded, Terrell felt warmth spread through him. His body glowed faintly for a moment, the same golden light as the humans. He looked up at her, whispering, "I will." When he returned to his ship, he looked out into the vast galaxy once more. The stars seemed brighter, as if smiling. Every system, every race, every being had felt the change. The return of the lost race had brought peace like never before. The humans had not come to rule, they had come to remind. And as Terrell watched the gentle glow spread across the galaxy, he thought to himself, they were never truly lost. They were the light we had been following all along. For centuries, the galaxy had been a quiet ocean of light, filled with countless stars, restless empires, and endless searching. But after Terrell's discovery of the human ruins and the strange signal that followed, something began to stir across the cosmos. Every world, from the frozen moons of the Voon Empire to the golden cities of the Sarathi Union, could feel it. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The signal that had once been a faint whisper was now echoing through every communication channel. It pulsed with rhythm and harmony, like a heartbeat from the edge of time. Scientists, priests, and rulers alike tried to decode its message, but deep down everyone already knew what it meant. The humans were returning. Terrell sat alone in the command room of his ship, the luminous star. Outside his window, the nebula glowed with soft blue light like a curtain of mist. He remembered the ancient statue, the glowing archive, and the haunting words carved in stone. We were here. We cared. Remember us. Now it was as if the stars themselves were remembering. He had spent months analyzing the signal, tracking its origin through layers of cosmic dust and old star maps, but it didn't point to a planet or system. It pointed everywhere. It was coming from the space between spaces, a dimension no living race had ever touched. Terrell whispered softly, "They never truly left, did they?" The voice of his ship's AI, Saren, replied gently, "Their presence lingers in every corner of the galaxy, Captain. Perhaps they were waiting for the right moment to return." He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Then that moment is now. Across the galaxy, people were afraid. The Jern Coalition built fleets of warships, convinced that the returning ancients would enslave them. The Xyrix clans began moving their colonies to hidden worlds, praying to their star gods for protection. The Voon Empire's council debated endlessly. Half wanted to welcome the humans, while the other half demanded the building of planetary defenses. But amidst the fear, there were others who felt something else: hope. Old songs were sung again. Forgotten temples were opened. Children across planets asked their parents who the humans were. And every parent told a different story, of creators, of saviors, of beings who once lifted the galaxy from darkness. And in the middle of all this, Terrell prepared for what he knew would be the greatest moment in galactic history. Weeks later it began. First came the silence. All communication between worlds suddenly stopped. Satellites fell quiet. Hyperlanes flickered like dying fireflies. It was as if the galaxy had gone still, frozen in awe. Then one by one the stars began to dim, not fade away but bend, their light curving into strange shapes like ripples on a lake. Space itself shimmered with lines of energy, golden and white, forming patterns that no scientist could explain. And then the sky opened. Massive gateways of light appeared. Not mechanical portals, but living bridges of energy that connected the physical world to something beyond. From within those brilliant gates emerged ships, vast and silent, glowing softly as though made from the essence of starlight itself. They were beautiful. Not war machines, not crafts of metal, but creations of art and harmony. Their surfaces shimmered like water, and their trails left behind waves of warmth and peace. Every species watched, waiting for a declaration, a command, or perhaps a demand for surrender. But no such message came. Instead, a calm, steady voice echoed through every communicator, every translator, every mind. "Do not fear. We are the descendants of humanity. We have watched from beyond the veil, waiting for the stars to heal. We return not as rulers, but as guardians." The galaxy went silent again, not in confusion, but in awe. Terrell stood at the front of his ship, staring out at the glowing sky. He could feel the message not just in his ears, but in his heart. The words carried warmth, the same warmth he had felt when he first touched the ancient ruins. "Saren," he whispered, "record everything. The whole galaxy needs to see this." "Already done, Captain," replied the AI. "The humans, they seem different. Their ships emit no harmful energy, only a resonance that restores balance to surrounding systems." Terrell frowned slightly. "Restores?" "Yes. The radiation storms near the Rinshara Nebula have stopped. Dead planets are showing life readings again. It's as if they're healing the galaxy itself." Terrell's breath caught. "They're bringing life back." On hundreds of worlds, the same miracle was happening. On the cold planet of Varnus, oceans long frozen began to thaw. In the skies of the Sarathi Union, storms that had raged for centuries calmed into gentle rains. Even the great void storms that had devoured ships for generations began to fade. The returning humans, or perhaps their evolved descendants, were not conquerors. They were healers, and as their ships descended upon lifeless worlds, they released streams of light that sank into the soil and air. New forests sprouted, rivers flowed, and the atmosphere filled with gentle colors that had not been seen for millennia. For the first time in ages, the galaxy felt alive. Not everyone believed in peace. However, the Jern Coalition's high commander, filled with fear and pride, ordered his fleets to open fire on one of the glowing ships near the rim. Thousands of missiles struck its surface, but instead of exploding, the lightship simply shimmered. The missiles dissolved harmlessly into particles of light. Then from the human vessel, a beam of golden energy spread across space, not an attack, but a message. It disabled every weapon, every engine, every power core in the Jern fleet, but no one was harmed. The ships drifted quietly, safe but powerless. A human voice echoed once more. We seek no war. We bring no harm, but we will not let fear destroy what remains of peace. The message spread like wildfire. The Jern commander fell silent, and across the galaxy, leaders began to understand. These were not gods to worship, nor enemies to fight. They were the memory of humanity made real. Terrell's ship was soon approached by one of the human vessels. The ship's light grew brighter until it filled his entire view. Then a figure appeared on his screen, a woman made of radiant energy with eyes that shimmered like starlight. Her face was calm, kind and familiar in a way he couldn't explain. Terrell of Voon, she said softly. You found our voice when no one else could hear it. He could barely speak. You're human? The woman smiled gently. We are what humanity has become. We learned, we changed, we grew, and now we return to guide the stars we once called home. Why now? He asked quietly. Her gaze softened. Because at last the galaxy is ready to listen. For hours Terrell spoke with her. She told him that humanity had never truly died. Long ago, as their civilization reached the height of power, they realized they were changing, evolving beyond the limits of their bodies. They had found a way to merge their minds with the very essence of the cosmos. They had become part of the universe itself. But before leaving, they left behind messages, monuments, and archives, hoping that one day another race would remember them. Humanity had chosen not to rule the stars, but to become their guardians. And now, after countless millennia, they had returned to mend what time had broken. Days turned into weeks, and everywhere the humans went, they brought peace. Empires stopped their wars. Old rivalries faded. Scientists studied the new energy. Artists painted the skies filled with glowing light ships, and children everywhere began to dream again. Terrell watched all of it with quiet joy. He had once thought himself a small explorer chasing myths, but now he realized he had been part of something far greater, the moment when hope returned to the universe. He often looked out at the stars and whispered, "They came back for us." And deep inside he felt a connection, a sense that humanity's story was not over. It was only beginning anew. As the gateways remained open, the light of the humans spread across the galactic map like veins of gold, reaching every corner. They didn't take control, didn't build empires. They simply restored balance and left knowledge for all who sought it. The lost race had returned not to reclaim their throne, but to remind the galaxy what it meant to be alive. And though many would later call it the day the sky opened, for Terrell and billions of others, it was remembered by another name, the day the heart of humanity awoke. The galaxy had never been quieter, and yet it had never been fuller of life. For weeks after the humans returned, every civilization watched in awe as the ancient race moved through the stars. Planets long dead were blooming. Oceans flowed where they had once been dry. Cities shattered by wars were repaired with a glow that seemed alive. Every act the humans performed carried no hint of force or power, only care. And through it all, Terrell followed them. Not as a commander or soldier, but as a witness. He had been chosen, though not in any formal sense, to learn directly from the humans. Their ships, radiant and silent, had welcomed him aboard one morning as he drifted near the Rinshura Nebula. There, in the soft blue light of a chamber that seemed alive with memory, he stood face to face with one of them. The woman he had met before appeared again, her form luminous yet gentle, her eyes holding centuries of wisdom. "Welcome back, Terrell," she said. "You have seen our story, and now it is time to see our purpose." He bowed, a deep respect filling him. "I am ready." The humans showed him worlds in revival. He saw forests stretching across once barren plains, oceans sparkling under twin suns, and skies filled with flocks of creatures that had been thought extinct. Entire civilizations were awakening not through force but through guidance and care. "They do not impose," Kiri whispered, who had joined Terrell on this journey. "They teach, they help. And the galaxy responds because they care." Terrell nodded, watching the soft glow of the human's energy touch a planet's surface. A flower bloomed immediately beneath the light, fragile and perfect. It's as if every living thing remembers them, and they remember life in return. It was true. Across the galaxy, every being that witnessed the humans could feel it, a warmth that was not just physical but emotional, spiritual. Their presence reminded every mind of kindness, courage, and hope. In the heart of the Rinshara Nebula, the humans gathered Terrell, Kiri, and others aboard a massive vessel that stretched beyond imagination. It was neither metal nor stone. Its walls pulsed like living tissue, breathing in rhythm with the galaxy itself. Here the humans shared their wisdom. They explained how they had transcended their physical forms long ago, how they had learned to exist as energy intertwined with the universe, how they had left behind monuments, messages, and archives, not as trophies, but as gifts for those who would come later. Power is fleeting, the woman said softly. But compassion endures. Knowledge fades, yet love is eternal. These are the gifts we bring and the gifts we ask you to carry forward. Terrell listened closely, feeling a new understanding bloom in his mind. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy. They had waited, watching, caring, and preparing for the moment when life had matured enough to be ready for their return. Over time, the humans began to interact more openly with the younger races. They taught them how to repair broken ecosystems, how to harness energy without destruction, and how to communicate across vast distances without harm. They revealed hidden knowledge, how to create harmony between science and nature, how to maintain peace in communities spanning multiple planets, and how to nurture the next generations with respect and understanding. Every lesson carried no judgment. Every action was gentle. And yet the effect was undeniable. Empires that had fought for centuries began to collaborate. Generations that had known only scarcity and war now envisioned a future of hope and growth. Terrell often walked among the humans and the galaxy's children, feeling the pulse of life everywhere. But not all change came quietly. Some leaders feared the humans' influence. They worried that their presence would make civilizations dependent on their guidance, that they would lose their independence. Others, jealous of their power, considered taking action against them. Yet every attempt to challenge the humans failed. Weapons dissolved into harmless light. Energy shields stabilized against storms. Even the harshest conflicts were resolved with the humans' gentle interference, not through coercion, but by showing the value of cooperation and understanding. In one memorable moment, a coalition fleet approached a planet under human guidance intending to seize control. They expected resistance. Instead, the humans projected a soft wave of light and energy. Within minutes, the fleet's leaders found themselves thinking together, sharing ideas, visions, and hope. By the time they left, not a single ship had fired a shot, yet every member had changed. Terrell often reflected on the first hologram he had seen in the silent archive. The woman's words echoed in his mind. "We hoped that one day someone like you would walk among the stars and remember." Now he understood fully. He was not merely observing history, he was becoming part of it. Humanity had not returned to dominate but to remind. One evening, aboard a quiet platform orbiting a newly reborn world, Terrell watched the humans interact with the native species. They radiated warmth, laughter, and patience. Even when mistakes happened, they responded with teaching, never anger. He turned to Kiri. "Do you see it?" he asked softly. "They're not just helping life survive. They're showing life how to thrive, and how to remember itself." Kiri nodded. "It's beautiful, and terrifying, because I've never seen anything like it." Terrell smiled faintly. "It's hope, Kiri. Pure hope." The humans began leaving small monuments on planets they touched. Statues, archives, and gardens. These were not reminders of power, but invitations to learn. Each monument carried encoded knowledge, messages of compassion, and instructions for future generations. Children on every world played near the monuments, sensing the gentle presence of something beyond understanding. Scholars studied the archives and marveled. Artists created paintings inspired by the light and shapes that humans left behind. For the first time, the galaxy felt truly connected, not through war or trade, but through a shared memory of what life could be. Even the stars seemed to hum in response, glowing brighter, pulsing softly like a heartbeat shared across worlds. One day, Terrell was invited to the central chamber aboard the largest human vessel. Here, all the elders of the human race, radiant, timeless, and glowing with energy, gathered. "You have learned, Terrell," the woman said. "You have remembered, and now it is time for you to share it with the galaxy." He bowed deeply. "I will. I promise to carry your message," she smiled. "Then you are ready." With a gesture, she sent a wave of energy across him. His mind expanded with memories, not his own, but the essence of humanity itself. He saw their worlds, their dreams, their fears, and their love. He felt their joy, their sorrow, and their hope. He understood in that moment, humanity had not just shaped the stars, they had shaped life itself. Terrell returned to his ship, transformed. His eyes reflected the same light that flowed through the humans. Every step he took carried the memory of what he had seen. And when he looked at the galaxy, he no longer saw chaos, borders, or conflict. He saw possibility. He began speaking to every council, every teacher, every child, telling them the story of humanity's return. Not as conquerors, not as gods, but as family of the stars. They returned not to rule us, he said, but to remind us what it means to care, to hope, and to live fully. They gave everything so we could carry the light forward, and now it is our turn. Across worlds, people listened. They began planting gardens, creating schools, and building new communities. They began cooperating in ways once thought impossible. They began to remember themselves, and the humans smiled from beyond the veil of light. Years later, Terrell returned to the Rinshara Nebula, to the world where it had all begun. The statue of the human, once broken, cold, and silent, now glowed with gentle energy. Around it, flowers bloomed, rivers flowed, and creatures walked peacefully. The monument had become a living testament to what humanity had left behind. The woman appeared once more, her form shimmering like sunlight on water. "You have carried the flame," she said softly. "The galaxy remembers now." Terrell knelt before her. "And I will never forget." She extended her hand, letting a strand of light touch his heart. Then the story continues. Humanity was never lost. It only waits in those who remember. The galaxy had changed. Old rivalries dissolved. New alliances formed. Children learned that hope was stronger than fear. Every species, in some way, carried a piece of the humans within them. Terrell stood on the platform and looked up at the stars. The sky seemed brighter, alive, and full of possibility. The humans had returned, yes, but they had also taught everyone a greater truth. That life, in all its forms, could remember, care, and grow together. And somewhere in the infinite expanse, a soft pulse of golden light spread across the stars, as if whispering across time and space. "We are here. We have always cared, and we will never leave." The galaxy smiled.